You're clean, aren't you? Except for your tower. You're a tower junkie, Roland.
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Tower Junkies is a podcast devoted to Stephen King and his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. We discuss the themes, characters, and mythology of the series in Palaver episodes, and review the books and comic series in Kef episodes. We also discuss King novels related to the Dark Tower, non-Tower King novels, TV and film adaptations of King's work, and the latest news about potential Dark Tower related adaptations. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com and follow us on every level of social media at Tower Junkies Pod, and also check out more of our podcasting at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Hurt, and with me today is Tiny. Hi, Tiny.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
We're finally here.
We are finally here. Like this, we have had a cursed run.
Yes.
As you guys will notice, our last episode was a few weeks ago, probably? If that, yeah. Okay. Oh, Jesus
It's been a couple months, because I don't think we've recorded in over a month together.
Yeah. So our first episode reviewing Castle Rock was well over a month ago. It was August 17th.
Jeez. Yeah.
As of this recording, we are recording this on September 26th.
Oof.
And if you remember, in between, like after the Castle Rock review, we took a week to talk about our top 19 Stephen King novels.
Right.
So our last episode on the feed was August 24th. 1 month and 2 days.
Yes.
So sorry, guys.
Every obstacle.
Tiny came down with Captain Trips.
Yeah. So I had a form of staph infection called MRSA. Mm-hmm. Google it if you want to not sleep tonight. Mm-hmm. So that was...
Oh, have MRSA.
Yeah, don't have MRSA. It's
No,
horrible. I had to have the back of my head sliced open and drained. I had 4 antibiotics in my veins at one time. It was not fun.
He showed me pictures.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
And then I was on call the week after that.
Yeah.
Finally healthy, and I was on call, and like we had plans. I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and record. Yeah. And if I get a call, I get a call. I probably won't get one. It'll be all right. And literally 10 minutes before I was going to come over to your house, I got a call.
Yep.
And had to work till like almost midnight. So.
Right. And you had messaged me at like 11:30 or something, and like I was just getting into bed.
Yeah.
And you were like, I just now got home.
Yeah.
And like I wanted to say like, oh, do you want to record?
I would have laughed. Genuinely.
Yeah.
Because I almost like, it was supposed to be something really quick, and so like, and it was pretty close. It wasn't very far away, so I was like, I might just like grab my microphone, and if it's over quick enough, like if it's like 9:30, we can bust out an episode real quick.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't even leave there till after 11. Didn't get home till 11:30ish. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's too late.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So yeah, I was sick, and man.
And then we tried to record last night.
Yes.
But we couldn't get it worked out because you had some issues.
Yeah.
And then at that point I was like, yeah, we can push it another day. It's not a big deal.
So it has been a long time coming.
It has. It really has.
I would venture to say this is probably the most times we've canceled.
I think so too. In our entire 5 year 4?
Yeah.
5 year? How many years have we
5
done
years.
this? 5 years. Yeah, this is years. Anyway, 5 years of podcasting. Yeah, this is the most difficulty we've had getting an episode recorded.
I think we've canceled recording at least 6 or 7 times, maybe more than that.
Yeah, I would say maybe close to, but probably not over a dozen times in 5 years, spread across 3 different podcasts.
Right. But then just in the last month to 6 weeks, I think we've canceled 6 or 7, maybe even 8 times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like made plans and then canceled. Like, sucks.
It does suck. It does. But hey, we're here and, we're podcasting, get used to it.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, just completely unrelated to everything going on here. I told you to watch Nathan for You. Have you had a chance to watch it?
I haven't watched any of it. No,
it's so funny, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, today, we are discussing episodes 3 and 4 of Hulu's series inspired by the work of Stephen King, Castle Rock. Finally, you guys may know that as the show that ended like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Originally, we were going to be not that far behind.
We really weren't. We really weren't. I was so excited, but
sorry.
Yeah.
Blame MRSA.
Yeah.
It sucked, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm still on antibiotics, by the way. Like, I have to be on antibiotics for the next month just to,
Oh, right. You guys got to go through the.
Right.
Jeez. So anyway.
Yeah.
I thought I was. Oh yeah. Yeah. Totally forgot. If you're in Indianapolis, here in a few weeks at this point, we are going to be hosting our 5th annual Shocktober in Irvington event, which is a one-night event screening of short horror films from local filmmakers here in Indianapolis. We basically rent out a venue in Irvington, which is a small community just east of downtown with a very colorful and creepy history to it. And so we rent out the Playground Production Studios. We screen the films. We do Q&As with the filmmakers after each screening. We raffle off prizes, give away gift cards to local businesses. And this year, for the first time, we're going to have a cash bar sponsored by our friend Tony over at geekinginindiana.com and the Indiana Geeking Podcast, who just recently got married.
And we were there.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
Got married, yeah. And we were there. It was good.
It was a fun time.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, so that is October 12th, 2018 at the Playground Production Studios. Go to shocktoberinirvington.com. That will take you to the Facebook page for Shocktober in Irvington. Tickets are available there. If you have any questions, tweet at us and everything. But yeah, go ahead and buy your tickets. Come to it. We are going to have, among several other filmmakers, one that's of interest to the listeners of this podcast is Cameron Grimm from 5 After 5 Productions. He made a short film that was a Dollar Baby project from Stephen King, an adaptation of his Night Shift short story, The Man Who Loved Flowers. That's going to be screening at Shocktober in Irvington, and we do have a couple paperbacks of Night Shift to give away as well. So yeah, go to shocktoberinirvington.com, and we can't wait to see you guys there. And it's going to be a blast. Also, all of the money we make is going to be donated to the Irvington Historical Society. We do that every year. At this point, we've probably donated a cumulative amount of like over $1,000 at this point. Well over $1,000 even.
Yeah.
So it's always great to help out that community. So once again, shocktoberinirvington.com. Be there, please.
Please come.
Yeah. So, so Tiny, let's go ahead and postpone the review for just a little second more.
See you in a week.
Yep. Yep. See you. All right. Well, good talk. We got to do some check-ins because it's been a while.
Let's do it. Yes.
So, how many Stephen King related check-ins do you have?
Just the one.
Okay, that sounds like it said chickens. Like how many Stephen King chickens?
I like chicken.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me too.
Stephen King chicken sounds weird.
It does, yeah.
Anyway.
One thing I can add to the check-in and everything. Mr. King just celebrated his 71st birthday.
71st.
Yep.
Here's to another 71.
I know, right? Yeah. I was thinking this might be kind of morbid and kind of messed up. But like I think when we did our top 19, we talked about like, the first King book we ever read and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is morbid and like it kind of made me a little depressed and sad. But like I thought like, it's really cool to, think about the first Stephen King book. And then I was like, we're pretty young.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a time when we talk about the last Stephen King book we read.
I did, yeah.
And like that's going to hurt.
That is going to be rough.
So we're going to have to do a suicide pact.
Yes.
But yeah, so I don't know why I thought like it's a really morbid thing, and hopefully that's not for many, 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 many years to come. Like you said, another 71 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of a weird thing. But I have a few check-ins. I'm going to do 2 and then let you do 1 because I can piggyback off of your 1.
Okay.
So, despite owning, I believe it's Skeleton Crew, the short story collection. And also, I have a bunch of Stephen King stuff on Audible, but I like having a physical collection. And I have Skeleton Crew, which is where this, I believe it's where this novella was first published. I bought a paperback copy of The Mist novella, which you can see right there. Tony.
Yeah, it's from the Skeleton Crew. It is.
Okay, yeah. So I own Skeleton Crew and The Mist, but yeah, I bought it. I want to read it, and maybe that should be the next project we do, because we have the novella, the movie, and the TV show.
Yeah, I forgot about the TV show.
Yeah, well, everyone did because it got canceled.
Yeah.
But it did have one complete season, so I think that would be a fun project for maybe the winter. But yeah, so I'm excited for that. Like it's like 110 pages, so I think that's part of the reason why. Well, part of the reason why I wanted to buy the paperback was because it's small. Like if I wanted to read The Mist and like I picked up Skeleton Crew, I'm just like, okay, well, it just feels like it would be more daunting because I'm weird with my brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited to have The Mist. Also, the cover looks really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. And then my second check-in is really more of just an anecdote. Lately, when I go to sleep, I like to have like TV shows playing in the background. And recently what I've been doing is listening to audiobooks in the background, like of books, like not like I have them play as I sleep.
Okay.
So it's like books that I've listened to or read before. So it's just like a comfort thing, I guess. So I've been listening to here and there over the last few days, Under the Dome, the audiobook while I sleep. Which is cool. You know, it's nice and comforting and everything. Although I will say that I did switch it up. This is apropos of nothing, but I did switch it up and I was like, I kind of want to listen to like thunderstorms instead of Under the Dome. So I loaded up like a 5-hour YouTube video of thunderstorm noises and stuff. And then I woke up 4 hours later having to pee so badly. And I didn't realize it until after like 5 minutes later when I came out of the bathroom. But it wasn't thunderstorm noise. It was just rain noises.
Oh my God.
And like, I remember like my REM cycle being like light enough, I guess, that like in my dream, like it was pouring, it was like Inception. It was like pouring down rain like in my dreams. So
wow,
it was weird because like that stuff kind of never happens. But anyway,
yeah.
So those are two of my check-ins, and then I'll leapfrog with your
sure.
What check-in do you have, Tiny?
I have a check-in for the book Tommyknockers. The Tommyknockers. I finished it the other day. Yeah, it's a long book. It's longer than I realized. I think the audio book is 25 hours.
Sounds about right. Yeah,
26 hours. So, yeah, I finally finished it. I drive a lot for work. Been running out to Illinois a lot, and it's a 2-hour drive. So that's 4 hours a day whenever that happens. Jeez. So, yeah, I was able to knock it out pretty quickly. I think we're going to talk about it on the podcast.
I think so too. After Pet Sematary, because we still owe you guys Pet Sematary.
Yes, I want to talk about that. So
yeah,
just my first initial reaction was it was okay.
Okay.
It was okay.
Now, you had mentioned in our top 19, I think it was that episode that you, or a previous episode, you mentioned that you've always been hesitant to read the Tommyknockers because of aliens.
Yes. Did
the alien stuff, we can save it for later, but like, did that have any effect on you? Did you buy into it, or was it?
It wasn't scary to me, really.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil the story or anything, but like it's not like a traditional alien story where they're like abducting people or hurting people or anything. So it's
similar to like how Cell isn't a traditional zombie story.
Kinda.
Would you say that? Okay.
Yeah. So it's it's different. It's not really scary in that respect, I guess, in the way that aliens scare me.
Okay.
Hard to talk about without spoiling it, but
right.
But yeah, it's an interesting story, and I think it was okay. It's just way too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll talk about it on the podcast at some point.
And on that note, my last check-in is that I started listening to the Tommyknockers.
Okay.
I'm only like 2 hours into it. I actually got 2 hours into it, and then I restarted it because I waited like a week or so, and then I was like, I didn't spend enough time like initiating my first listen, my initial listen, if that makes sense. So like I wanted to make sure like I knew everything that was going on, so I restarted it. And then I don't know, like lately at work, we have at work I can listen to stuff during the day. But like we have these little focus rooms that like you can go and be closed off and everything. So like I've been doing that a lot, and I think I might like take the day and like just sit in a focus room doing my work and have that playing in my head.
Okay.
In my headphones for the whole day. So
gotcha.
That is to say I should hopefully be able to get through the Tommyknocker soon so we can talk about it on the podcast.
All right.
Yep. So that'll do it for Stephen King check-ins. Like we said, we are going to be talking about Castle Rock episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3 is Local Color. And we are going to we're going to spoil these episodes. So be warned, you are in spoiler territory. The episodes are available on Hulu. And for those who for some reason don't know, Castle Rock is based on the stories of Stephen King. The series will intertwine characters and themes from the fictional town of Castle Rock. So, as I said, we're going to be reviewing Local Color and episode 4, which is The Box. So first up is Local Color. The episode aired or was uploaded to Hulu on July 25th, 2018. It was the third episode, obviously. And they had their premiere structure is that they released the first 3 episodes all in one go and then did week to week after that. So, director for this episode was Daniel Attias or Attias. He has, some interesting credits to his name. Did you check into this at all?
I didn't know.
Okay. So he, directed several episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He directed 4 episodes of The Wire. And he directed 2 Hurley episodes of Lost.
Okay.
So yeah, writer for this episode was Gina Welch, and she was a staff writer for Ray Donovan, and she wrote 1 episode of The Terror on AMC, which is I've heard good things about it.
Okay, I'm not too familiar with it.
Yeah, I think it's another kind of like season-long anthology show.
Gotcha.
I think the first season has something to do with people in Antarctica, or maybe not in Antarctica, but like an Arctic camping trip that, had terrible endings.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The camping trip, not the show. But anyway, the description for Local Color is the past catches up with Molly Strand. So I mentioned in our last review that, I wasn't sure where, I think I was confused about how Henry Deaver's father died and where he died, because Jackie Torrance, said that he like implied that Henry had killed his dad, but then Henry said his dad died at home, and I wasn't sure what it was. And lo and behold, the first scene of this episode is young Molly Strand going into their house and murdering Matthew Deaver.
Doing him dirty.
Yeah. And that was pretty cool. Also, we should say with the caveat that the original intention of these reviews was to go week to week and review the episodes as we watch them. We have seen the full season.
Yeah.
So, oopsie.
Right.
But we won't spoil anything past the episodes that we're reviewing.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, so do you remember how you felt when you saw that, Molly's, as a kid, murdered Henry's dad?
Really shocked. Like I was wondering if they were going for like ambiguity over whether her character is like good or bad.
Oh yeah.
I thought they were going for that, and I was like, man, I don't know. Is she good, or is she like straight up murdered this dude? And I think it's clever because it also adds a lot of ambiguity to Matthew Deaver. Like, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? And I think the fact that I think it's clever because it sort of plays with the idea of how we perceive people of the cloth. Right. Because, you kind of sort of want to assume that he's a good guy, or like, it's like, of course he's a good guy. He's a preacher. Like, he's
Because, like, that's kind of a good, a good example of, like, Hollywood lazy writing. Like, I think that the way that King and the producers of the show, but also King in the general sense, the way that he depicts, religious people and people of the cloth and everything, he does it with this twisted kind of way, and I think that kind of subverts our expectations, because you grow up, like, if you grow up in a religious household, it's like, oh, listen to, like pay attention in church. These are good people and everything. There's inherently, like, you're trained that church is good.
Mm-hmm.
Tragically, if you're Catholic, but,
yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah. But yeah, so, like, it kind of subverts that kind of thing. And, like, a lazy screenwriter could be like, oh, he's a good person because he's a religious person.
Right. Well, and plus with the whole love triangle thing,
yeah.
you know, with Pangborn and Henry's mother, and you get this sense, like, it's almost like painting a negative light on his mother as well, because, like, well, she cheated on him, and it's like, he's a pastor. It's like, you're a pastor's wife, and
right.
You know, there's all these connotations and all this subtext, and you know, it's like, where's this going? Where are they taking this? And it's interesting, the layers and the like I said, the connotations and the ideas they kind of mold in these first episodes.
Sure.
I kind of appreciate the ambiguity of it, but yeah, the whole Molly pulling the plug kind of threw a wrench in things, and it was like, holy crap, where are they going with this?
Yeah, because at this point we've met Molly. We know that she has some kind of psychic abilities and stuff,
right.
And we know that there's this history with her and Henry, or this, like, at that point it's kind of like led to believe it's kind of a weird admiration that she has for him and stuff.
Right.
So we think, like, oh, you know, we're gonna get kind of a probably cute, like, light, like, weird relationship thing with them, or that's gonna be the main driving force of the show for them, is gonna be that they have this romantic history, or this potentially romantic history, or this potentially romantic present based on their mutual admiration in their past, or what have you. But then we're just like, oh, no. The drama is gonna be that she murdered his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. We'll talk about that in later episodes, I'm sure. And maybe even later in this one, but, I'm going through my notes here, but I do want to mention, there was a really fun, kind of a cute Easter egg. Molly Strand is a real estate agent, and do you remember what her slogan was?
Something with king.
Yeah, it's, live like a king. And, I thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of, like in The Mist, I think the grocery store was called like King's Grocery or something. And then to a lesser extent that really, and we could go on a tangent about this in a second, but, the Under the Dome TV show, like, the second episode has, like, a truck driving into a water tower or something, but it's like King's whatever.
Okay.
Which also, oh god, there could be so much we could talk about with Under the Dome, because if you remember, if you listener are an Obsessive Viewer listener, like, at the beginning of the Obsessive Viewer, the first 2 episodes, we talked a lot about how excited we were for Under the Dome.
Yeah.
And it's such a pity that Under the Dome was made in 2013 and not 2018 or 2019, because if they had held off and, like, Hulu got it, like, I mean, that property, like, we talked about 5 years ago on Obsessive Viewer, we talked about how it could be the next Lost.
Yeah.
In a way, but
had so much potential.
It had so much potential, but I don't think television in general was at the zenith it is now. To allow for really good adaptations.
Right, I agree.
Yeah,
especially network.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the guards and Zalewski and Henry kind of talking about the kid. One kind of complaint that I have about, well, not really complaint, is that in this episode, there's a scene with Zalewski talking to one of the other guards, and they're kind of talking about hush money that's being given to them, and, like, one of the guard is like, oh, what are you going to do with your bonus? And then he's like, don't you know, this is hush money, so that we don't talk about, like, the shit that they're doing in here. And, like, it's kind of expounded upon later when he talks to Henry at the bar about how it's like the prison is corrupt and how they need to change things. I just feel like that kind of thing, like that characterization or that plot device or plot subplot wasn't wasn't developed enough for me. Like I kind of, because it's kind of just a tell don't show thing instead of show don't tell.
Right.
It's like, oh, they're getting hush money. Oh, they need to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it kind of felt a little hollow. Did you feel that way at all?
Yeah, and I think the reason is I agree with that, and I think the reason that it feels that way and that storyline gets sort of dropped is the fact that they kind of leave the prison.
They do, yeah.
Because I mean, like there's an abrupt thing that happens with Zalewski eventually, and then like the kid gets out, and so it's like we're just kind of away from the prison.
Yeah,
and I think if you dwelled on that, it would kind of it'd be like you're lingering at Shawshank a little bit too much when there's not really. I don't know.
That's fair.
But I agree. It should have been expanded on because it's interesting conspiracy stuff,
And I think that may be why I didn't connect with it that much, because we don't spend a lot of time at the prison. Maybe if the prison storyline like was a few or like an episode or two longer, like it would feel better for me. But you're right; it does come to an abrupt end in the second episode we'll be discussing tonight. But
right,
but yeah, it just that was a minor complaint. But another kind of complaint that I had at that point in the show, I'm gonna sound like a negative Nancy, but I really don't get how Jackie Torrance fits into the story.
She is really a deus ex machina.
She is.
She really
is.
Exists to drive the story along. And not that she's a bad character. I think she can be kind of refreshing because there's so much. Fucking Henry Deaver is such a downer. Yeah. Like, smile, dude. Right. I mean, like, I'm not genuinely complaining, but it's just like he's a very kind of a negative, distracted kind of character that, not that he's not deep, but he's just very, he's not a happy guy. And, and I think that's clear. And he can really kind of bring you down. And she's like the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of appreciate the effect she has on scenes, but I don't understand her greater role in this show. And I feel like she's such an ancillary character that like anything they try to do to make her significant is going to fall flat because she's
and they fall into that later in the season too.
A little bit, yeah.
I also kind of feel like Jackie, like we talked a little bit about it in the last episode, but I feel like she just doesn't fit like the tone. Like she's very plucky and energetic and kind of quippy. Mm-hmm. And then also like we don't find out like what her deal is until like episode 5 or 6 probably. Mm-hmm. And also just in the back of my head, I kind of feel like the Shining reference is a little too on the nose and isn't, it's more fan service than anything because it didn't really connect with me, but we'll talk about how that factors in later, but because I have an axe to grind about something in the next couple episodes, a story she tells, but
I think she's kind of not comic relief, but she's like attitude relief.
Yeah. Yes.
But I get it. I totally get what you're saying about her. She's a bit too much of an enigma for the tone that they struck with the show.
Yeah. And
she sticks out like sore thumb.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I will say that Jane Levy, I think is the actress's name, I think she still manages to sell it pretty well, but she does have she's kind of the weaker character in terms of storytelling and everything. It kind of feels like they don't know they didn't know what to do with her. Mm-hmm. But she kind of comes into play. She's helping Molly with the model of the town, which that was confusing to me because I didn't know how like she fit in with Molly's I guess she's like Molly's assistant with her,
something like that.
Yeah.
Or she hires her part-time to do stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it becomes more clear in the coming episodes, but at that point it's just like, oh, she works for her. Okay, cool. I do want to mention that Molly has this plan to revitalize the community. And like, it's an admirable plan. And like in the last episode, she had asked her sister, for, to borrow on like the equity of their parents' house or something.
Yeah.
And I think she had already done it.
Right.
So that was kind of a big thing. I think we kind of glazed over that when we reviewed the episode.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But anyway, I do want to point out that I like the juxtaposition of Molly's plan for revitalizing Castle Rock, compared against Warden Lacey's imprisonment of the kid. Like, I kind of feel like both of the characters are motivated out of a kind of a respect or reverence for the town. But they clearly take very different approaches toward actually protecting the town.
Right.
I don't know if like that's, do you think that there's a connection there, or am I reaching? Cause it kind of feels like maybe Molly's more out of greed, but it's like she wants to revitalize the town, and Warden Lacey just wanted to protect it from evil.
I think you're stretching a little bit. And the reason is because I'm not sure what Molly's motivations are for wanting to revitalize the town so bad. I mean, I don't necessarily understand why she has that level of civic pride, because she's not.
Ooh, I think I know, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, because she's not, again, she's not like, she doesn't seem like a very happy person. Like, she has this huge secret, or this ability to like read people and whatever you want to call it. And she sees it as a negative, and she doesn't like it, and it makes her kind of a weird person. And she has to like take drugs to keep it at bay and shit like that. And it's just weird that she would focus on revitalization. I don't really get it.
And I think I can kind of shed some light on that.
Okay.
And I will kind of expand on that a little bit when we talk about her kind of outburst on the TV show, but we have more things to talk about before that. But I think like my read of that, like kind of talking it out and you know, with you now, is that she is an empath, and she has this psychic ability that's where she feels the emotions and everything about everyone in the town. And I feel like maybe her motivation for wanting to revitalize the town and everything is just to keep like the negative spirit of the town at bay. Like, I think that in her own way, like, she thinks that by redoing Main Street and making the community a lot better, it'll keep the darkness at bay. And I think that that's why I kind of associated that with Warden Lacey literally keeping the kid imprisoned to presumably leave the darkness at bay and not unleashing it on Castle Rock. So I think that I mean, that's what I read into it, and that's what I'm kind of thinking about now that we're talking about it.
Okay.
Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, a little bit. And plus, just the fact that she feels everyone's emotions. If everyone around her is sad, she's also going to be sad.
Exactly.
So she makes everyone happier. She's, you know, it's a cause and effect thing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So,
and kind of on that same subject about her being empathetic and having a strong empathic connection with people, perhaps her strongest empathy or empathic connection is with Henry,
right,
when they're kids. And like, it's, you know, revealed that she murdered his dad because she has a strong connection with Henry. And then we also see glimpses of Henry and his father and his dad asking if he hears it while they're walking in the woods. And at this point, we have no context for that. It's very mysterious. And I kind of really dug that, because that's just enough information to whet our appetite for what it could possibly mean. How'd you feel about the flashbacks and the way that the show unfurls the history of the characters?
I think it's kind of peeling away at the ambiguity of Matthew Deaver. I think it's, in a way, anyways, it's a very slow build to that. That's what it ends up being. You know, towards the end of the episode, end of the season, it's a slow build to that. But you're right. It's intriguing. The fact, you know, that "do you hear it" thing is very. It's like, well, where's it going to go? There's just so much. It almost like frustrated me the first like 3 or 4 episodes of the show, because it's like, it's just because it built so slowly.
Like every great Stephen King novel.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the flashbacks are key. I'm a fan of flashbacks in general. Yeah. Especially when they're used right, used properly. And the fact that the event of Henry Deaver going missing was such a pivotal event in the history of the town that, you know, I'm glad they're actually giving us flashbacks to it. And it's not just some vague thing that's being referenced every once in a while. Like, we're getting actual pieces of it. It's satisfying, but again, it's slow.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about the kind of connection to Lost, in our last review of the show. But I mean, it's no secret that, like, it's right out of the J.J. Abrams playbook, the J.J. Abrams mystery box playbook, that they're doing it this way. And like, I love the show for that, because we were huge fans of Lost, and this feels so much like what Lost was.
Yeah, it does.
To me. And like, in a future episode, we're going to talk a lot about Lost and connections to Castle Rock too, I think. But for now, I liked the glimpses we got of Henry's past with his father and Molly's connection with him and everything. One thing I do want to bring up, I feel like the episode kind of got bogged down a little bit, or slowed down quite a bit, when we had the scene where Molly goes to find Derek, the kid who's like the supplier for the drugs, and she tries to get drugs from him. I feel like that slowed things down, because I did not understand what the hell was going on.
Me either.
Yeah, basically she walks into a barn where these kids have like masks and like Halloween masks and like paper mache masks and stuff, and they're doing a fake trial, and it's weird. And like, the best I could think of, because obviously if you listen to episode 19, we haven't read every Stephen King work, but it felt like maybe they were going for potentially like a Children of the Corn reference. Yeah. But that I feel like is a stretch, that I'm just trying to make a connection out of something that I wasn't really that into in the episode.
Maybe.
How did you feel about that?
I thought it was just way too out of left field. I didn't know what was going on either. I mean, it was creepy. Yeah. Definitely a creepy thing. But it was just, and I feel like it wasn't really explained, or it wasn't at least explained well. Yeah. So I honestly, I didn't really care for it, because it was just, like I said, it was just too weird. It was too out of left field. Yeah. That I couldn't appreciate it at all. So I didn't really like it.
Me neither. And like, the first time I watched the episode, it was like, I was so excited for the show and everything, that I was staying up really late to watch the show. And like, that was the moment in the episode where I was like, I've got to go to bed, and I'm going to try it again, because I was dozing off, and I was like, wait, what is going on with these kids? Like, what are they talking about? Yeah. It just felt kind of out of place, and it didn't really fit in the episode for me. But it does lead to Molly getting arrested, and Henry having to bail her out of the jail. And I do want to point out, there's a scene where Melanie Linsky, who plays Molly, kind of comes clean to Henry about their history, about her abilities and everything. And she's just kind of frantic, and like, it's an incredible scene. Melanie Linsky is incredible.
She's great.
She's fantastic. Yeah. And the way that Andre Holland, who plays Henry, his performance reacting to her is so great, because he has this blank stare, like, what? Yeah. And like, it's a really great kind of back and forth with them, where one of the people engaged in the conversation isn't really speaking, they're just reacting. Yeah, right. Really great scene.
It was a great moment, because it's like one of the first times in the first 3 episodes of the show that two characters are really just speaking very candidly to one another.
Absolutely.
Like, there's so much subtext throughout the show, which is great. I love the subtext, and I feel like everyone's like got some secret that they're hiding, but like, you can tell they're hiding a secret, but nobody's talking about it. It's kind of like this, it's very Derry, Maine. Feels like a very Derry, Maine thing, where everyone's like, there's something going on here, but I don't know what it is, and I'm afraid to talk about it. Yeah. But this is like the first time she's like, I can hear thoughts. Like, like someone just comes out and says exactly what's going on, and it's really raw, very raw moment. And the two actors hit it out the park. Yeah.
So. And the way that Henry is, like, even though it's raw, and it's like, it's what you want out of a show, like what the audience is wanting a character to do, because like you said, they're just saying what they're thinking, and they're being upfront about it and they're moving it along. But the way that Henry just reacts to it, it's like, you realize like he can't, like that doesn't really sink in the way that you would expect it to, because he's having a realistic reaction, like thinking like what the fuck is happening? Like,
yeah.
It's really a good kind of a scene there. But
Totally.
yeah, but then he gets her to the TV station. That's where she has the outburst on air where she talks about how the prison is concealing a kid without due process or anything, and how like the whole town needs to, you know, get its head out of its ass or whatever she said. I have some thoughts on the outburst. Well, what did you think of it just in general?
Well, it was really candid, and you know, it's a moment. It's a moment of direct candor amongst all the secrecy and you know, shadows stuff happening in the shadows. So it was good for that reason. But it also, I don't know, it also felt like more of that like kind of conspiracy stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, there's something shady going on up at Shawshank, you know? So it was intriguing for that reason. But, and I felt like the part where Henry just kind of like jumps into action in order to get her to her show was a really interesting character moment, because I feel like Henry is pretty selfish. Like he's a pretty selfish character.
Yeah, he kind of is.
Most of what he does is in pursuit of his own pursuits, and it's like what he wants to know and what he wants to find out, and it's kind of a way for him to just get this thing wrapped up so he can get out of there, because he has all these negative feelings associated with the town. But that moment was just a clear reaction of like, this is my friend and I need to set aside all my bullshit and just help her out. And he does that. And I thought that was like just kind of a fun character moment, and like a very candid moment. That was kind of almost my favorite part about that is
it kind of gave him some depth.
Yes, absolutely. Because like, I don't really like Henry that much. I think he's kind of a dick, and like, I don't really like him that much. And so the fact that our main character had like a nice moment of heroism made that scene special. But the actual outburst, I didn't know what to think of it. I think it was just the culmination of so much pent up whatever amongst from Molly.
And that's what I was going to ask, because I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. Is because it comes from a place where she was trying to score drugs. She can like you said, it's all pent up and everything. But I wanted to ask kind of a question. The outburst itself, where she's like revealing to the audience of the town that, you know, there's a kid being secluded in Shawshank and everything, and there's a cover up and everything. Is that strictly from Molly? Is that strictly her just going off the rails and like not being able to hold back or anything? Or is that a compulsion from the kid himself? Like a psychic kind of thing where he's trying to, you know, get the ball moving with getting out.
I don't think so, because well, it's tricky because I know how the season ends.
I know,
like we've seen all the other episodes, so it's like at the time, that's what I thought. I thought, yeah, like it was part of that was the kid controlling her,
right?
Like, you know, because she's an empath, he knows it, and he's like sending her these thoughts and these vibes, and like that's what I thought at the time, and I think that's what the show kind of made it seem like. Yeah. And I think they did it pretty well, and it was intriguing. I liked it. Right. You know, I think these early episodes, what they did with the kid is they, you know, made him seem very evil. But really you don't know what his motivations are. Yeah.
He seems evil, but I don't mean to cut you off, but
ambiguous. So much ambiguity in the show.
It seems like he's evil, but it also seems like he doesn't have any control over that.
He's along for the ride, just like everybody else is, right?
Yeah. And I think that's what the show does really well, is it has this, like you said, ambiguity to his character, because he's like the central mysterious character. So like you can't have him outright, you know, and I hate to keep bringing this up and everything, but it reminds me of Lost, like to an extent. And granted, it's been a while since I've really watched Lost, but like Ben Linus, when he's first introduced, you don't know if he's good or evil.
Right.
And like there are moments where, you know, in that run of episodes when he's first introduced, where he's being basically tortured for information, and he has this cover story, and like you don't know if he's good or bad, but it feels like he's bad, but he's convincing that he's good. It's kind of that kind of thing is at play here with the kid, because
right.
even though he's not really trying to do anything to promote like a cover story or anything, but he's not reacting, and that's like the best way to kind of spread this paranoia or confusion over his motivations.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Totally.
Yep. And speaking of the kid, the prison tries to pay him off.
Yeah.
So they basically offer him a settlement, and Henry doesn't want any of it, because I think his reaction is that like, they're gonna pay him off. But like he didn't do anything. Like they didn't do anything. So like there's a scene where he's talking to the kid through the phone in the window, and I just love this line where Henry's like, they want to try to give you money to shut you up or whatever, and then he says, I think we should try. It was a typo. He says, I think we should employ the tried and true legal strategy of go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
I thought that was a kind of good line.
Totally.
But that, like, I love that line, but then the kid actually, like, he speaks to him, and he asks Henry how old he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asks if he hears it now.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a great way
totally
to, like, I wish that was the end of the episode, because there's one other scene that we'll get to in a second, but if the episode had like one or two more flashbacks of Henry's dad telling him, like asking him if he hears it, and then ends with the kid asking him if he hears it, like that would have been a killer ending for the episode. But I love that we have that connection of that kind of weirdness there.
Yeah.
But the actual ending, and then we'll move on to the box, is Molly is in her house, and she's haunted by the presence of Matthew Deaver. Like she hears something, and then she looks in the hallway, and he's there, like wrapped in bandages, and says something, and like it ends. That felt cheap to me. Like, yeah, it was sort of like an easy scare, cheap scare, like you're saying, like cheap. Yeah, I get that. I thought it was still pretty scary though. Did you? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fair.
It was like, yeah, it was cheap. It really was. Like I can't defend it, but for whatever reason, it kind of worked for me. And see, I think that's what Hulu was banking on. Yeah,
because it really feels like I have no way to corroborate this. This is purely just an opinion or a theory of mine. But I kind of feel like the original ending was supposed to be like Henry and the kid speaking at prison. And then I feel like Hulu's like, hey guys, this is the third episode. We release our episodes 3 at a time at the beginning. We need something extra here to kind of keep people, like, make people want to wait the week to watch the next episode, or make it so that they want the next episode immediately.
Right.
And that's just how it came across. Cause in the grand scheme of things, it kind of feels hollow to me. Cause it doesn't really have any payoff in the next episode at all.
Yeah.
So,
it was definitely cheap.
Yeah. But in terms of production design, it was cool.
Yeah.
Just it kind of felt a little out of place, but yeah, so that's episode 3. That's Local Color. Some good stuff there. Some stuff that didn't really fit for me, but it still had me engaged and everything. Definitely missing Alan Pangborn in that episode. Which is great, because the next episode, The Box, has a lot of them.
Yes.
So let's go right into episode 4, The Box. This episode was dropped on Hulu on August 1st, and director was Michael Appendel. He directed the first 2 episodes of Castle Rock, and he directed 5 episodes of Fargo, which is kind of cool. Like he kind of has the corner on directing like these anthology shows because he also directed 9 American Horror Story episodes.
Wow.
Yeah. He directed 11 Mad Men, 3 episodes of Scream Queens, and an episode of The Walking Dead. Writer for the episode was Scott Brown, who is credited with 2 episodes of Sharp Objects on HBO. Have you watched any of that?
No.
Oh, okay. I've heard really good things. A limited series based on Gillian Flynn's novel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They are showing promos for the next season of The Walking Dead, though.
Oh, yeah.
I could not be less enthused for that show.
Yeah. I'm kind of vaguely interested in it. The same way that, like, if I catch wind of something that happened, like, I don't watch the show, but I'm kind of curious to, as someone who hates spoilers and everything, I'm kind of curious to read about what happens in the show just to see what I'm missing because I gave up on the show a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I know, like, Andrew Lincoln's leaving this season.
Right.
So is Lauren Cohan, so.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, well, do you want to start a Walking Dead cast?
Fuck no.
So anyway, episode 4, The Box. The plot description is Wow, I'm going to take that again. Henry prepares for his day in court, and a coffin arrives in Castle Rock. So, let's talk in just general terms and just say this episode was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
For several reasons. And we'll go point by point through my notes here, but right off the bat, Zalewski's stuff, especially the ending, was really cool.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And I love the scenes between Alan Pangborn and Henry. So before we get into the different points, I have a lot of notes for this.
You do?
Yeah. What did you think of the episode overall, real quick, before we dive into it?
I feel like this is where the show really started to take off. I think they started, like, cutting through some of the ambiguity and, like, diving into a lot of stuff. Confronting some of the conflict, I think.
Yeah.
Taking it head on. So I think it was the right point to start doing it. I think, the first 3 episodes were a lot of setup, and that's fine. I'm not critical of that. But this is the point where you needed to start, that some of that conflict needed to start coming to a head.
Right.
And it does. It does in this show, this episode. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and without spoiling it, it's kind of hard to talk about it, the ending and everything.
Right.
But,
we'll get to it.
Yeah, we will.
So we'll talk about Zalewski later, but there's a scene at the beginning of the episode where this kind of slimy suit from the prison, that guy that dressed in a suit, he's such a douchebag.
And just evil-ish.
Evil, douchebag-ish. In, like, the way that Bill Skarsgård plays the scene is so cool. Like, he is so creepy and just unsettling. Like, I think the only thing he says to him is a piece of scripture that he quotes. He says, I'm going to try to do a Bill Skarsgård impression. He has the name written on him, which no one knows but himself. It's, like, just so unsettling.
Yeah.
And, he does such a great job playing the creepy character.
Right.
And, like, I love that we have him as Pennywise playing it big, and then we have him as the kid playing it just really subtle and unnerving.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just really cool.
Yeah, both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. So then we kind of move on to Pangborn and Henry. I love their characterization, their connection, because they have such a complicated history, and it's so rich and complicated, but neither of them are afraid to call each other out on it. So, like, they're very direct with each other.
Yeah.
And I love that. There's stuff, like they're locating Henry's dad's grave and marking it, and, like, they're kind of going back and forth, and Henry's, like, adamant about bringing his mom back to Texas with him, and Pangborn does not want that, like, cause he cares about her and everything, and he's just like, you're gonna put her in a home and everything, and, like, fuck that, she's not going anywhere, she fucking lives here and everything. And then later when we get both sides of Pangborn as he's being stern and very direct with Henry, and then he's very sweet with Ruth, and he like floats the idea of relocating with her to Texas, and it has a sweetness to it because it shows that he cares deeply about her, but he has kind of too much pride to really let Henry know that he's actually okay with the idea.
Yeah.
It's just a cool dynamic at play. What did you think of their scenes, at least in the beginning of the episode? We'll dive into it a little bit later too.
Yeah, they are very direct with one another, and I think that's what's great about their scenes together. And I feel like they both harbor this animosity towards one another, and it's not even like I think normally a guy like Henry Deaver in his situation with his mother having, dementia or Alzheimer's, normally that son would be incredibly grateful that this random guy or this person is helping his mother and preventing her from having a tragic life and still taking care of her and everything, and not only taking care of her, but wanting to take care of her.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's very sweet. It's a very nice thing that he does. And Henry should be ecstatic about that, but because of their history,
right,
it throws this whole wrench into the thing. And then there's this, they always butt heads whenever they're together. And it's, we find out eventually it's because of their history and what Pangborn knows about Henry. And then Henry thinks he thinks that basically Pangborn stole his mother from his father. And, there's this undertone that is there, it's there, but you don't know exactly what it is necessarily.
Yeah.
And it comes to the surface, but no one's direct about it. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's like they tiptoe around it, but at the same time, there's animosity there. And it's interesting to see the way that develops over the episodes, and I think it really starts to heat up in this fourth episode. Absolutely.
And he's also very, very much concerned that Pangborn is trying to take advantage of Ruth, and it's very protective. It's just a really interesting, rich dynamic.
Yeah. Totally.
That's made all the more complicated by the history that the characters share.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. But I do want to mention real quick while we're at that point, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a soapbox, I guess. I don't know if soapbox is really the right way, but I don't know if you remember, but there's a scene where they get, it's going into the house right before Pangborn talks to Ruth about relocating. The TV is on, and there's a clip that's played from a very specific TV show. Did you pick up on this at all?
No.
Okay, because I don't think you've seen this episode of this show, but of the show that I'm about to say. But it's a very deliberate clip that's put into the show. It is a clip from the season 2 episode of The Twilight Zone called The Howling Man.
Okay.
And it's one thing it's I wouldn't say that it's a point of contention for me with the series as a whole, or this season of Castle Rock as a whole, but the idea of the show being about this person who may or may not be the devil or evil incarnate, and whether or not they should, keep him concealed or destroy him or let him free. It's essentially the Howling Man.
Okay.
That is the episode of The Twilight Zone. It's about this guy who goes to a I think it's a monastery or something. He's an American hiker who got lost, and he goes into this monastery or whatever it's called. I think there was a word for it, but and he discovers that there's this man that's in a cell being held against his will, and the guy's begging him to let him free. And then the guy, the head of the monastery or whatever it is explains to him that this person is the devil, and if you let him go, he will destroy the world. And he's been responsible for both world wars and all the war that's going on. And the reason we've had peace is because he has been locked in here. And like, if you let him out, he will, like, it's the same exact thing. So like, I appreciate that Castle Rock is paying homage to the Twilight Zone, and I appreciate that they are like making, like, they're doing it in a way that like they're not cheapening it, or they're not cribbing from it, because they're right. It's right in our face there. Like, there's a scene from that episode of the Twilight Zone. It's deliberately put in the show as a point of kind of a wink at the audience, and also kind of, I feel like it's a kind of a thing of respect. Like, oh, this show did this before. But it kind of makes me feel a little, I don't know. It makes me feel a little uneasy or disappointed that the show Castle Rock is a Stephen King multiverse show. It's a show that is inspired by the work of Stephen King, and it tells interconnecting stories, and it's about the town of Castle Rock. Yet the main point of the entire season, like the main plot device of the entire season, isn't from a Stephen King book that I'm aware of, because Stephen King could have paid homage to the Twilight Zone, that particular Twilight Zone episode. Yeah. But it's essentially an episode of the Twilight Zone in Stephen King's world. And I just feel like that feels a little wrong, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that?
Interesting. Well, I mean, I didn't get the reference because I'm not familiar with that episode of The Twilight Zone.
Check out anthologypod.com.
Have you talked about that episode on the podcast?
I have, yeah. Okay. I reviewed it. It was before my long, long hiatus, which I'm coming back to Anthology, I promise. Did you see the preview for Jordan Peele's?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Oh my God, I am so pumped.
I bet.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, I didn't really have a frame of reference for it, so I hadn't really given it any thought. I really don't have anything to say about it because I didn't really know until you just explained all that.
Yeah.
So
does it affect your perception of the show? Like, did I just ruin the show for you, or
no,
make you feel
not at all.
Okay.
I think maybe if I had seen that episode of The Twilight Zone, I might have
hindered it a little bit.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah, had a negative effect on it, but no, I'm indifferent to it, really.
Sure.
Yeah.
There is something I was going to say, because I didn't bring it up in the last episode, but I can't, like, it's something that I was thinking about Castle Rock sometime after we recorded our first episode reviewing the first two episodes, and I had a thought that I tweeted out and everything, and I was so, like, there's something that I want in terms of a Stephen King adaptation / Castle Rock-esque thing, but I can't really say anything until we talk about the last episode of this season. So
okay.
I don't know why I brought that up just now, but it's frustrating to me because I want to talk about this thing that I want, but like it would be more suitable for the end of the season. But anyway, so we talked about the scene in the bar with Zalewski, and just to reiterate, Zalewski's frustration about the prison is like his performance in that scene is great. Like he's really good at he's really good at kind of playing that like frustrated, disgruntled employee. Cause like he's like, well, if we go to the press or if we do this, it's going to sound like Henry's like, it's going to sound like you're a disgruntled employee. He's like, I am fucking disgruntled.
Yeah.
It's like, it's great.
I love the line he says where he's like, do you think if there was a Walmart within 40 miles of here, I'd be working at the prison?
Yeah.
I was like, dang.
That was great.
Because working at Walmart sucks.
Right.
It's notoriously a terrible job.
Oh God, yeah. I kind of feel like the only way to make that better is if he was like, if there's an Amazon fulfillment center,
yeah, more poignant,
yeah,
topical.
Or if the White House, anyway,
yeah,
because Trump, I get it. Anyway, so yeah, I like that. It kind of seems like that. The way that Henry doesn't necessarily hear what he's saying, because Henry's got its own crap going on, but he doesn't. It's like he hears him, but he doesn't listen to him. I love that kind of leads Zalewski to. It pushes him to kind of confide in or comfort the kid. Because after that he goes to the prison and he's like, hey, we're gonna get out of here, both of us, and you know, we're gonna this wing is gonna be your garage or something like that because you're gonna own the place. And then he does the fist bump. Yeah. Which is so tragic. Because of the ending. Yeah, and then we get throughout the episode we get these little scenes, like there's 3 of them, I think, where it starts and beginning, middle, and end, where Zalewski is relieving the guard that's in the room with the CCTV, and like she has this little quippy thing each time, like something stupid, like if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Yeah. And then like Zalewski reacts to her each time, and it's like really weird, and it, like even before the fist bump that apparently possessed him or whatever. Mm-hmm. It just felt weird. Like, yeah, it rubbed me the wrong way, and not in, I don't know. It didn't fit with me. Okay.
Well, yeah. I think it's important to kind of further, illustrate how Henry's kind of a dick. Like you said, Henry doesn't seem especially receptive to the, like the corruption and everything that Zalewski's pointing out to him. Right. And I think he sees that the kid is enthused about it, about that Zalewski is enthused about it. And so he kind of uses him to be like, hey, keep an eye on the kid for me and like, help me out with this. And, you know, it's almost like Zalewski is so miserable at his job that this kind of gives him hope. Right. And it gives him something to work towards. Yeah. And kind of gives him like a delusion of grandeur a little bit. Yeah, because like he even says to Henry, like he's we're gonna get out of here, like you said. Yeah, well, no, he says to Henry before when they're in their cars, like he mentions like, hey, is there like how long does it take to be a lawyer? Right. Yeah. It's like it's kind of a sweet kind of dumb thing. Right. It's almost like Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Kinda, like, I'm a bird lawyer now. I'm gonna study bird law. Yeah. But and it's kind of sweet, like. In defense of Henry Deaver, like the official position is that you think he's a dick, and I'm like, he has some qualities. But yeah, he's not. I'm exaggerating a little bit. Yeah, I'm being a dick myself, but it's kind of sweet because he's like, yeah, I'll write you a recommendation. Sure. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll come back to the prison. There's some stuff like, There's one scene where Henry is going through the microfiche at the library or wherever, and he's looking through old articles about the town and about Shawshank. And there's some stuff there that I kind of wonder if they're kind of seeding things for future seasons. Cause he's looking for stuff about his past and everything, but he finds like there's one article that's prominent, like 1985, like fire at Shawshank, or like a Christmas fire at Shawshank. I kind of wonder if like that's going to lead to, well, I don't know. I kind of wonder if that's going to seed something for a future season. Like I could see like a future season that deals with whatever caused that and be a period piece for the 80s. But then again, I also kind of feel like it may be also something seeding for later in the season. Yeah. But in doing that, Henry finds an article about a Vince Desjardins. And you haven't read Carrie, have you? I have not. Okay. I wonder if that name is a reference to Carrie. Because I've never heard the name Desjardins except for in Carrie, like the gym teacher's name is Miss Desjardins. Okay. I just think it's just like a named reference or whatever. Could be. Just like Jackie Torrance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, what did you think of the whole scene with Desjardins and also the history of Shawshank and stuff, if you want to touch on that, because I've been kind of talking.
Yeah, well, it was really creepy, the whole Desjardins thing. I mean, I don't know. It's throwing up all these theories and like giving you all these little snippets of information, and it's like, was he held captive by, was he held captive at this place? Hell if I know. I don't know, but there's a freaking cage in the back of the house, and that guy was super creepy and had his police file, and it's like, I don't know. It's like they're throwing all these snippets of information at us. Yeah. And this was another thing that was like, I'm not sure what to do with this. Like, I don't know if I should look into this that much. Like, as an audience member of the show, I'm not really sure what I should take away from that.
I felt the same way, and I felt like upon rewatching it, I kind of felt like that whole subplot was kind of, because it's just a one episode thing.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was just kind of a time waster or
really?
filler thing.
I did not like it. I kind of liked it, but
yeah.
I just don't know what to do with it.
That's exactly how I feel. Because, like, it was creepy. It was, like, unsettling because, like, the place is a mess. And the guy is creepy and, like, he has the folder, like, he has the box with all the stuff. And then there's the reveal that he's lived there the whole time and his brother never lived there. Mm-hmm. But, like, it just felt like it was kind of empty a little bit because it kind of feels like there's a whole setup of like, Desjardins' brother has a sealed record, so he has a felony, but they can't figure out what it was. And then you come to the house and like his brother's just like, oh yeah, it was for insurance fraud. It's nothing.
Okay.
And I kind of feel like at the end of that sequence, they make it seem like, maybe this Vince Desjardins is the guy that was responsible for everything. But by that time, I kind of feel like they already discredited or dismissed that kind of subplot as a possibility for it. I kind of feel like the reveal that Joseph Desjardins is the brother's name that lived there. The reveal that he always lived in that house, not his brother. It's a little iffy, especially on repeat viewings. Like I like that the scene turns a bit. Like the music gets more ominous as Henry realizes, along with the audience, that this man is the guy who may have taken him, as opposed to Vince Desjardins. But that's only like a little piece of it because like we know within reason that he's not involved because it's the 4th episode of the season, and this is a character we're just learning about. Like it's very slim chance that he's going to be involved in any way. So I didn't know if we were supposed to be nervous or uncomfortable or what in that scene. But I guess nervous is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what to do with the information they gave us there, the whole Desjardins thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And to kind of bounce back to, talking about Ruth, there's a scene where she confronts Henry after Pangborn has a conversation with her. She confronts him about moving her to Texas. And I love that scene because, first of all, Sissy Spacek is amazing.
She is.
Like, I mean, the whole season, her performance was like, I would say award worthy. Like Emmy, like I hope she gets a nomination for an Emmy.
Yeah.
She was incredible. And we'll talk more about that later in the episodes. But, I love that scene because I feel like that's showing that Ruth is a lot more perceptive than she seems. Like she's not just this helpless old lady with dementia. She like has enough of her mental faculties to know like when she's, being lied to by Alan, or when she knows that Henry is kind of going behind her back to an extent. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think of Sissy Spacek?
I thought it was great too because again she's been such a subtle character up to this point in the show. I don't feel like she's had a lot of she hasn't had a lot of confrontational moments like this. Right. It's been a lot of like, oh hey mom, how are you, kind of stuff, and like not a lot of meat there. There's been a little bit of Henry like, hey, why did Dad used to take me out in the woods? There's been a little bit of that, but it's all very like kind of coy and not very direct. Yeah. But this was just her like, hey, WTF, bro. She really came out, and it needed to happen with her character. I think she was getting a little stale.
Yeah, totally.
So it needed to happen, and it was again this 4th episode was a lot of things that needed to happened, I guess. Yeah. To keep the show driving forward. And that was a big example of it. Totally.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about Molly and her selling Lacey's house. Yeah. So I just want to touch on a couple things real quick first. One is that we'll talk more about that couple that's looking at the house later in the season because it's so awesome.
Yeah.
And also the man of the couple. Did you recognize him?
Yeah, I knew I'd seen him before, but I didn't know where from.
Okay. Do you know now or anything?
No.
Okay. He played, and this is a deep cut. He played one of the romantic interests in the early seasons. One of the romantic one of the romantic interests of one of the central characters in a 90s sitcom in the early seasons of the sitcom. And that show was Wings. He played he played an investor named Davis Lynch, who wooed Helen.
That is a deep pull.
It is. Oh yeah.
From the depths. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dang.
And also, while we're kind of on that similar thing, did you recognize the actor who played Joseph Desjardins?
No, not at all.
Okay, it was like both times I watched the episode, I was like, I know him from something, and I looked him up both times. I just didn't remember. He was one of the attorneys in The Social Network.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the guy that Jesse Eisenberg.
He's like, do I have your attention?
Yeah, he's like, did I adequately answer your condescending question?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. God, that movie's so good.
That is a good one.
Yeah, but also kind of the big thing I want to talk about with this scene is it's kind of a light scene. It's fun because she's hiding all the paraphernalia of Lacey's death, including his cremains,
right?
that she puts in the fridge.
Yeah.
And she has this kind of one-off line, or this kind of casual line when it comes to light that, that Lacey's dead and this is his house. Cause she says like a mass strangler killed himself in my bathroom, and there's nothing there. And obviously, do you know the reference?
Right. Yeah. From Dead Zone.
Yeah. The Castle Rock Strangler.
Right. Castle Rock Strangler.
Which I love that. It's things like that. That's cool that Molly lives in house.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll probably static that out so you don't hear it. Anyway, yeah. So and even down to like the wardrobe of the actors of the couple, like she's like she looks like kind of a high society kind of waspy character. She has like a sweater that's tied around her neck. Yeah,
very.
Yeah, and he's like clearly like a professor guy. It's just I love how out of place they are in the setting of Castle Rock or Castle County even.
Right.
It's so cool, but like that could have been all that they had for that couple, and it would have been satisfying to me, but like later on in the season, like we'll talk.
Right.
Yeah. So we get another confrontation scene between Henry and Pangborn, and this was kind of the culmination. This was maybe one of my favorite scenes of the series or of the season, because we got Pangborn. He's just working on a fence or something, doing like manly stuff, and then Henry comes up and he's like, he confronts him about because he's like, why didn't you do your fucking job and dig into Desjardins? Like, why didn't you do your due diligence there? Like, why didn't you do your job? And like, it's so great because like we said, like they're direct with each other, and like Scott Glenn, he's so great.
Yes.
He flips it around and he's just like, I've been doing my fucking job for 27 years because, the last thing that Matthew told him before he died was he wrote on a note saying Henry did it. And so he's been protecting Henry this whole time.
Right.
And it's just great. And like he ends that interchange because Henry walks away and then Scott Glenn, like Pangborn says, "You're the one who dug up Desjardins. I'm just here trying to keep this fucking fence from falling down."
Yeah.
So, like,
really? God
damn it, he's great.
He is.
Yeah. What did you think of that whole confrontation scene and the interplay between Henry and Pangborn?
Yeah, I love it because it's like Pangborn is working with or interacting with Henry with the assumption that Henry, obviously, he thinks that Henry knows exactly what happened to him while he was missing, and that he knows exactly what happens. He thinks Henry knows that Pangborn has been protecting him all these years, but he doesn't. And then, the opposite from Henry's perspective, and it's just like it's that clashing of all these assumptions where they're so direct with each other, but if they would actually just have a conversation, they could clear a lot of shit up, and there wouldn't be so much animosity between the two of them. I think they could come to more of an understanding of each other and be a lot more friendly. But it's just funny they're working with these assumptions, and it's like they both think that each one of them is kind of a piece of shit for not owning up to what they did in the past, and it's just this odd dynamic, It's so it leads to some really dramatic moments like this, like where that you're trying to keep a fucking fence from falling down. You're the one who's digging shit up from the past. Right. We both know what happened. Wink, wink. Yeah. But really, Henry's like, "What are you talking about?" Like it's just I don't know. It's such an odd dynamic.
It really is, and it's so
the clash is just strange. And it's compelling as hell. And
it's so interesting because they're so direct with each other. They're so upfront about just their disdain for each other. But it's just amazing that like Pangborn thinks that like he's been working under the assumption that Henry murdered his father the entire time. And like his assumption is that Henry knows that, and Henry's been shielding that from like he's been carrying that with him for all these years. Henry doesn't have a fucking clue.
Right.
Like it's such an interesting dynamic. I really love that scene.
And you can't say enough how great Scott Glenn is.
You really can't. He's out of this world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so and then we get Henry going over to Molly's and kind of appealing to her and trying to like I like that because he's at his most vulnerable. Like he thinks at this point he's like, shit, did I kill my dad? Like, is this what's going on? And like he goes, and that's another interesting dynamic. He goes to Molly for comfort, not really knowing that she's the one that killed his dad.
Right.
It's just such an interesting dynamic, and it's implied that they sleep together.
Yeah.
I guess, but it's interesting. What did you think of that?
Yeah, it's like it's funny because it's kind of like Henry has these confidants that he doesn't know are his confidants, or like he doesn't realize how much they know about him.
Right.
And I don't know. It's like, it's funny because like, I feel like so much of the conflict in the show could just be solved if people would just sit down and have a conversation, an honest conversation with each other, but they don't. And so there's all this confusion and all this crap. But yeah, it leads to some pretty dramatic moments like this where he talks to her. So.
And that dynamic where it's like, if people would just talk to one another is like one of the reasons why I loved Lost so much.
Yeah.
And why I'm really loving this show, because it feels like it's carrying on that legacy.
Right.
God, I love this show. So when I first watched the episode, we're kind of going down to the ending here. When I first watched the episode, I kind of felt like Henry waking up and wanting to take the settlement. I kind of felt like that was a little sudden and a little weak in terms of plotting, but like, when rewatching it and realizing that it's because he thinks he was responsible for his dad's death, it really kind of hammers it home and makes it a lot easier to kind of buy into. Did you have any of those reservations, or how did you feel about his 180 once he woke up?
Yeah, shit's just getting too real. He has to get out of there. He has to run. That's what he does. And so yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
That's so great. Sorry.
Yeah. He just gets stuff just gets too real. So he's like, I'm done with my principles. Let's just take this deal and get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, then that's like, all the conflict he's had with especially with Molly and Pangborn just builds up to that moment. So.
And do you think, because after that we get, obviously, the big moment where Zalewski massacres the guards in the prison, it's after he has he fisted the kid. And so it's like implied that he, inherited the evilness of the kid.
Right.
But I kind of wonder, like, is there a connection to be drawn between his rampage and Molly's outburst on Local Color in the last episode? Because I kind of want to ask the same question I asked about that scene in the previous episode. Did he do that because he was at the end of his rope and like he just wanted it to be over, like he was that fucking disgruntled as he put it, or was it how much of it was his own hatred for the position that he's in and the position that the prison is in, and versus how much of it was the influence of the kid and any kind of evil that surrounds the kid.
I thought it was kind of both. I thought it was like both forces at play, and like the kid kind of pushed him over the edge to get him to go full on rampage and kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, most disgruntled employees, gonna throw a sports reference in here. They pull Avante Davis.
Oh, yeah.
They just leave during halftime.
Sports balls.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He retired at like halftime.
Yeah. He used to play for the Colts, and he moved to the Buffalo Bills, and he literally was like at halftime, like took his pads off, put his clothes on, and left, and just quit, which doesn't happen.
Right.
So I think that's what most disgruntled employees do. They're just like, I'm just getting the F out of here.
They weren't giving him enough bills to play.
Hey, they probably were though.
I'm sure that.
But no,
make a ton of money.
Like, yeah, I feel like it was both things at play. That's what I thought during the episode, and like now, again, having seen the rest of the season, I don't know.
Right.
It's like, was it the kid or was it something else? Craziness. But yeah, like and then the overall shock value of the scene,
yes,
is just oddly refreshing, I guess, because this is like a huge action.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Everything's been very much talking and discussing, and a lot of playing out the emotions and the drawing up the past, and not a lot of action per se. And this is like just straight up getting shit done, and in a very disturbing way. But yeah, just the shock value of it and the absolute what the hell,
right,
just really drove it home.
And I love the way that is shown to us all through the CCTV screens.
Yes,
we track his progress through the prison through that, and then I love that with that song playing in the background. It's really great. And then we end the episode with Zalewski seeing Henry in the warden's office, and then all he says is, "I want to testify," and then boom,
right, flashbang,
gunshots, and another shot, and another shot of Andre Holland reacting to things.
Yeah,
just really, really cool.
Yeah.
Also, the guard that he shoots at the end, right before he says, "I want to testify," is the guard that he was talking about in the beginning of the episode about the payoff and everything and the bonus and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just the show is making a point to end on big moments and cliffhangers and stuff.
Totally.
And I really appreciated this one much more than the one in Local Color.
Yeah, and the episode in general, a lot of shit takes off. The show really took off with this episode, I think.
Because like I was surprised to see Zalewski go so quickly.
Me too.
He felt like he was going to be a bigger character. And another thing that you can nitpick this to death, but I kind of feel like it was a little like there are a couple of scenes where it establishes that he's got a wife and she's expecting their kid to be born, like she's pregnant. And I kind of felt like that felt, I wouldn't say sloppy, but it felt like it wasn't developed enough. Cause I feel like they did like the bare minimum, like have him have a few scenes where he's talking about having a kid on the way.
As like a source of motivation.
Yeah. Or like a source for us to have,
an emotional connection.
Yeah, a more emotional connection or a deeper empathic response to his downfall in the episode.
I hadn't thought about that till you just said that, but a little, to use your word again, a little cheap maybe.
Yeah, a little hollow and like. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to have his wife or anything in the show. Yeah. It just feels like it's just kind of needless backstory that didn't really connect until like the end of this episode.
But I think in general, he was a really interesting character. And like, I was, anytime they spent time of the episode on Zalewski, I was interested. Like, I really wanted to see where he was going to go.
Me too.
But yeah, I guess that was a bit of a drop.
Yeah,
on his character, but overall, and I love that actor. I can't even think of his name, but
yeah, it's like Noel something.
I've seen him in a lot of stuff, and he's always
Shameless.
Shameless. Yeah, he's in Shameless. He was really good in Shameless. and he was in that freaking show with. It was on FX where they were like gypsies.
What
was that show called?
Yeah, we watched it.
That was a good show. It was a bummer that it got canceled.
Yeah, it was like a one-season wonder.
Man, I can't remember
with
what that was called.
Eddie Izzard.
Eddie Izzard and
Stolen for Time.
Yeah.
The Riches.
The Riches. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's a really good actor,
He's good.
I really liked him in Castle Rock. I think he did a fine job.
Absolutely.
He was also Michelangelo in the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if that's mocap or voice or what.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah. So overall, what did you think of the box? And
well, again, it was where I think the show really took off. Was this episode, and it just a lot of things came to a head, and realizations were had, and people died.
Yeah, just like any good episode of television has.
Right.
Yeah.
So big episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Tower Junkies. It's been so long, I don't remember the name of the podcast.
Yeah, right. MRSA.
Right. Thank you guys.
Lord of MRSA.
Right.
I don't know.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Next time, so here in like 3 months, we're going to review episodes 5 and 6 of Castle Rock Season 1. That's Harvest and Filter. So let us know what you think of Castle Rock and in these episodes and everything. Once again, if you're in Indianapolis, October 12th, 8 p.m., Playground Production Studios, Shocktober in Irvington. It's going to be a blast. Tickets are on sale now, $8, or you can pay at the door. Seating is kind of limited. We're only selling like 75 tickets total, and we've sold quite a bit now, so seating is limited. So buy now. Buy early, buy often. So check us out there and at sharktoberinirvington.com. Check out our other podcasts at obsessiveviewer.com/podcasts. And I think that'll do it. Tiny, anything else before we go?
Nope.
All right. Well, long days and pleasant nights.
May you have twice the number.
Thank you for listening to Tower Junkies, a Dark Tower podcast presented by obsessiveviewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at towerjunkieспod.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or anywhere else podcasts are found. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can find ways to do that at towerjunkiespod.com/donate, or become a patron for Obsessive Viewer at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for recurring donations with different reward tiers. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. You can contact us by emailing us at matt@obsessiveviewer.com or by tweeting us at towerjunkiespod or at obsessiveviewer and at obsessivetiny. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/towerjunkiespod. For more podcast content from obsessiveviewer.com, check out Anthology, my solo side project podcast where I'm reviewing The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer and exploring other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology television shows. You can find Anthology at anthologypod.com and anywhere podcasts are found. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the app of your choice. Once again, thank you for listening to Tower Junkies, and we'll see you next time.